Hello, everybody. All right, so I'm going to lie on the ground and I'm going to scrunch. I can bring my legs up if I want to scrunch, or I can just scrunch on the ground and let everything go. I'm going to scrunch. You can make a sound if you want or not, and let everything go. So after I scrunch, I'm just going to let all the bones sink into the floor. And I'm just going to feel my weight. You can take them through a little bit of relax your feet, relax your thighs, knees, hips, spine, arms, shoulder blades, neck, face, head, all of that sort of thing if you'd like to. It's just nice to take a few minutes to do that. I'm muting because something made a little sound on my computer. Making sure that's muted. Yes, it is. Okay, and then the very first posture, which we call open book, it's nice to have, well, you actually need a pillow. So you need a pillow some will only need a little bit, some will need 2 pillows. You can use a rolled up blanket. You also can use a meditation pillow, the round ones. In our coursework, that's what we actually use, and at universities we like to use those because they're just the right height. They're probably about this high, which I'd say is about 4 inches. But the purpose of this is actually to come and go under your bum. So I'm going to put these under my bum. I'm going to put one. Probably 1 is good for me. Some people will need 2. This has to do with how tight their hip flexors are, because what you want them to be able to do is to be able to bring their knees up and be able to hold onto their knees. And if they let go of their knees, there's no need to engage the abdominal muscles. So this frees up the abdominal musculature. So I'm going to hold onto my knees. And then the main thing that you want to think about with this work is we're trying to get the body to re-educate itself, to find its own intuitive way of breathing. So most of these exercises are ultimately breathing exercises, although we will add sound to them. But the sound that we add, we call a fluffy sound, meaning it's just a little bit of sound, like a sigh, that comes on the end of an exhalation. The reason why is we don't want to put any of our habits of breathing or any of our habits of voicing onto the breath. So ultimately we want the voice completely connected with the breath. But we're human beings, so our desire will be to do it, to actually, like, I'm going to take a breath now. And then also I'm going to take a breath. I'm going to put my sound on the breath. But we want to connect the two in a more body intuitive way. So all you're really going to think about in this particular posture is finding a tremor. You're not going to think at all about your breathing or your voice at first. And so first thing you want to do, and as teachers you're going to go around, you're going to check, can everybody let go of their butt and their abs with their knees like this? And if they can't, you put more under their butt. You just stack it up higher. So we're going to play with flexing the feet. And the deal about inducing tremor, so we call this a tremor posture. Not all the postures are tremor postures. Some are tremor postures and some are arches. But with this particular one, it's a tremor posture. The way you induce the tremor is by the weirdness of flexing your foot to straightening the leg. And each person will find, it depends on their hamstrings, that their leg will go a different place. So some people's legs, if they may go only here, some people's legs may go here. If they're really flexible, some people's legs will go all the way back here. It doesn't matter where the legs go ultimately. We don't want to open the thighs out, although that is part of this posture, but not at first. So you just have them lie down. They can have their hands here first to hold on and then let go. And then what you're going to do is they will flex their feet. And then you just have them very, very, very slowly. So you don't even talk about breath. You say, don't even think about breath right now. Just flex your feet. And how slowly can you start to bring your feet towards the ceiling? I don't say straighten the legs, because some people will get about this far and they may start getting a little tremor, which is just a little what we call autonomic nervous system tremor, very similar to what happens when you're sitting and one of your legs falls asleep and a little bit of a tremor happens. What the tremor is the tremor is the autonomic nervous system's natural healing mechanism. So because I'm flexing my foot, this makes my legs. And okay, so this right leg wanted to tremor, but the left leg doesn't want to. That's very normal. Maybe one leg will tremor and then I can straighten. They won't be even. I have a knee injury in my left leg, so my legs are going to tremor very differently. Anyway, what I was back to saying was that this little tremor is the autonomic nervous system's healing mechanism. So it's actually going to go in and it's going to seek tension in my body. And then for some people, we get pretty wild. Like I'm used to tremoring, so I know how to do this, so I can really get my legs going. And then what I'm going to do is some people will just have the tiniest little bounce. When you do this work, actually, you become very what is the word? Empathetic? Is that the word, Nora? An empath?
I think empathetic, yeah.
Yeah, you become an empath, really, and you'll get next to a person and your body will tremor a little bit if their body tremors. You can almost feel if it's somebody shaking their leg or if it's an actual autonomic nervous system tremor. And they'll be a little freaked out. Usually at first they'll be like, what's happening? What's happening? Ooh. Some people, the tremor will move all the way into the pelvis. Some people, the tremor will move all the way into the torso. So I'm just going to relax, and I'm going to enjoy this for a minute. This is everybody's favorite pose.
And then, Heather, is it the feeling of maybe when you're cold and shivering?
That's
like
exactly.
Your body...
Yes, so it is like a shiver. With the body tremors when we're cold. The body tremors because it's creating heat in the body. So this is the way of the body finding heat. So actually, if you're cold, it's a lot easier to tremor, actually. So heat is being brought into the body. Vibration is being brought into the body. But what actually ultimately happens is it changes your breath. So if I tremor for a minute, a big breath just came there on its own. Another one. There may be periods of no breath, somewhat of a state of breathlessness, which is actually an advanced yogic practice, which I've only experienced doing this work. So you might be able to hear my breath a little bit or see my breath. Now that my breath has become somewhat active, I'm going to add a little fluffy sound of the exhalation, so I'll demonstrate. I'm just adding a side. You can have them come in and out as much as they want. An interesting thing is when you're trimming, it feels really cool. So you'll often spend a lot more time with your legs up in the air than you would think you would, because you're thinking more about the trimmer. So then I'll have them bring down, or I may say in the middle of that, go ahead and open your legs if you'd like to. And they can open their legs up once they're trimming. Now, of course, this really opens up the pelvic area. So if I look at a student and when they breathe, I don't see any lifting of their lower abdomen, then I know that they need this posture. They need to do lower body. Right? I'm going to take a small pause. Hello, I'm back. Okay, so now I'm bringing my legs down. I'm going to take the pillow out. I'm going to either throw the pillow away, or one thing I do want to say, if you have someone whose head is like this because they have too large of a thoracic cavity, do put a pillow under their head. You always want the head to be completely in line with the body. You don't want anybody's head arching back. That compresses the cervical vertebrae. It's really not good for them, and it's uncomfortable as well. And there's a cat. Keep going. Okay, so we're going to pull that out, and we're going to do a sideways tremor. So what I'll do is I usually let them stretch out, and usually what I do actually right about this time is I'll have a little conversation about tremoring. What did that feel like? Some people find it scary. Some people, they can have a very strong autonomic nervous system reaction where their body tremors a lot. So I'll stop and I'll have a short talk and I'll explain that it's the tremor looking for tension within the body, and that the tremor is like a heat-seeking missile that's going in and looking for any tension. And some people have more tension than others, and in different parts of the body. So everybody will have a different tremor experience. And it's nice to have a little conversation about it. How did they like it? What did it feel like? It also puts people in a meditative state. So after usually a tremor like this, when they bring their legs down, they'll feel really chilled out. They'll just be very, very mellow. And it stops the chatter in the brain, so it's excellent for that tremor work as well. So I actually suggest people to use it before they go to bed. Then the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to have them once again bring their knees up to the chest. And this time, I'm going to have them drop their knees to the side. And this is like what we call a cat stretch. First, I'm going to have them come to the side. It's nice if they can have their legs at the 90-degree angle, or even if you know someone is very flexible, let them scrunch up a little bit, because we're going to open up the side of the rib cage, is what we're going to do. That's the goal of this trimmer. And I like to have a pillow around, because I am a yoga therapist and I want people to be comfortable and safe in these poses. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring both arms down, and then they're going to go into, the legs stay here, but they're going to go into a stretch. But a lot of people can't get their shoulder down, and that's fine. So if they can't get their shoulder down, you're going to take a pillow, take a couple pillows, and stick it under their shoulder if they need to. Some people may need a pillow under their back here. Sorry, he's part of the project. And then, so you want them to be comfortable. And then they're going to take, let me have to put him away. They're going to flex, so the bottom leg just stays very relaxed. They're going to flex their top leg and see if they can get a one-leg tremor going. The leg will come off a little bit, So if I show you, my leg is off, and they're going to come into a one-leg tremor, and because they're squished up, the breath will go into the side of the body here. So I'll have them find a tremor. Some people can even put their toe down once they have a tremor. Some people may have hip issues, so I don't use this with people with hip issues, if they've had any hip injuries. But if they come in and they do this, it's actually quite nice to open up the breath in the side here. And then you're going to do the same thing, have them come up, give them a moment to rest, hold on to their legs, and then have them drop their knees to the side. First, their body will be somewhat curled over. I'm going to have, if they're flexible, they can get comfortably their arm down. If not, I'm going to put a pillow here. There's no wrong or right in any of this. And then they're going to lift up this leg. First thing, flex the foot, lift up the leg, and reach out. All of these poses they can come in and out of. And then
about how long do you think on each side, or just a matter of until they find the tremor?
They're going to find the tremor. They're going to go in, and I didn't do exactly right enter, but they're going to find the tremor, and probably about my breath is starting to open up. You might see it. Now I'm going to add some sound.
So it takes a little while for the breath to move up, correct?
Yep. So you're going to watch the breath. You're going to watch to see where the breath deepens. That might be long enough for each side. It depends on the kind of class you're doing. If I'm going through the whole sequence, that might be long enough. I usually, actually, when doing a class, I will watch the students, and you'll see when they start to fatigue of a pose. You'll see when they're starting to get the breath active and the sounding, and when they're getting some maximum effort, and then you can see when they're starting to put their leg down, they're starting to tire, and then I pull them out of it. But that can be long enough right there. That can be long enough for.
If we're doing the explanation about the autonomic nervous system, etc., would it be a good idea to keep them? Would it be a good idea to put them in like semi-supine at that time for just a rest break, or you can talk to them while they're actually in a pose? Just to say, it doesn't matter, or if they're in a pose, should we be quiet?
No, I'll actually talk. I'll go around and help adjust them if they can't find a tremor.
Okay.
And then I also will, I'll stick pillows and things under them, and then I may kneel down with someone and see what's going on. Like if they're tightening here, I'll see, can you relax here? You know, I may talk to them. I do talk sometimes while they're tremoring. You get in a very chilled space, so I use a gentle voice, but I might say, first I'll get the breath, and I can see when their breath starts getting active, and if I see anyone trying to control the breath, I'll say, remember, just let the breath come when it wants.
Okay.
And then now add a little fluffy sound, but remember to let the sound just connect to the breath. Now the sensation is that that when you add sound, because the breath deepens in the body and goes to different places, when you add sound, the breath moves deeper and more open in the body, and then when you add sound, the sound feels that way as well. So there's a really delicious feeling of the sound coming from deep in the body, or on that one from the side of the body. So that's really lovely.
Okay. And just to reiterate, though,
sure.
At both the side and the V poses, the feet are flexed.
Flexed, yes.
Okay.
So it's the flexion of the foot to the strangeness of the flexion of the foot to trying to straighten your leg with a flexed foot that induces the tremor.
Okay.
Most people have tight hamstrings, so they usually don't have to straighten their leg very far.
Okay.
And then if you have a dancer, they're the hardest people to teach because they don't know how to let go of muscle. So if you have a dancer, you have to have them do the very tiniest little bit of work. You have to literally, I'll stand over a dancer and say, relax your butt, relax your belly, relax your butt. Don't barely do anything. And they'll find usually a small tremor. Once they know how to find it, they start to learn to relax, but their muscles are so contracted all the time, which they're not aware of, it's hard for them to release.
Right.
And that's okay, because even we're really looking for the breath to deepen. So even if somebody does this, just holding their leg up is weird. The body's going to get tired of holding the leg up, so the breath will deepen. But if you can get the tremor, then it's of course ultimately the best. Okay, this is the hammock. This is a really wonderful one. This is for lower pelvic work as well. Coming off my mat. And this one, the whole body's relaxed. And yes, you can have them rest in semi-supine between postures, absolutely.
Okay.
This particular one, their feet are up. You want them to have their feet in a comfortable place where they could come up into a bridge. So I usually just have them, people put their feet out here. It's not comfortable to come up into a bridge. So I have them put their feet as comfortably close to their bum as they can, right? So I'll have them check and see. And I'll have them say, because if they've done yoga, they'll say, oh, this is the bridge. So I'll say, do the bridge. Okay, that's not what we're doing. And then what I'll do is I'll say, this is the hammock, and we're just going. Basically, it's a pelvic tilt. So what we're going to do is not even a tilt. What we're going to do is we're going to use the top of the legs and the front of the legs and the calves to lift the butt a little bit off the floor. You don't have to tilt. We don't want to use any muscles to tilt. You don't have to arch. All you're going to think about is legs, press your feet into the ground, use the front of your legs to lift your butt off a little bit. And then I'm going to say relax your abs. I may go around and poke people into their abs. We actually do use touch in this work. But of course, whenever you use touch, you always have to ask people, is it okay, right? And then in this posture, I'm just going to think about, and then I'm going to try to release my bum, which is hard to do at first. But what will happen, I'm going to move my hands so you can see, I'm starting to get a lower pelvic tremor. And then I'm going to keep trying to release my butt. I'm going to try to release my abs and as well my pelvic floor. I don't want to engage my pelvic floor. I want to just see if I can let all of that go. People's hip flexors might get tired. There's some muscles in the hips, so let them come down if they get tired. Thing about these poses, though, is that the tremor is so interesting that you'll find yourself doing an exercise longer than you maybe would. And then I'm going to have my arms up here. The arms are just normally just down at the side, comfortable. but I'm going to have my arms up here so you can see what might happen in my breath. I'm going to have to remind myself to relax my butt. Did you see that big breath that just came into my belly? That did it. My body did that on its own. I'm going to keep reminding myself to relax my pelvic floor. People that are trauma sufferers often have constantly contracted pelvic floors. This is extremely good for anybody who suffered trauma, rape, abuse. So that was a perfectly good example of a breath, and then of course stretch out, relax. Perfectly good example of a breath pause. So I don't quite know why this happens with tremor work, but you may have noticed there was a breath and then a long pause. And in breathing, there's 4 states of breathing we say in yoga. There's inhalation, there's a pause, there's exhalation, and there's a pause. And advanced yogic techniques is trying to make those pauses longer. But interestingly enough, I've never been able to do that very well just practicing pranayama, which is yoga breathing techniques. But in this tremoring, I will have these huge no breath spaces, and I don't have the desire to breathe. The body just doesn't want to breathe there, and then a nice breath will come. And it's a very interesting aspect of this work. Although this work is voice work and used in theater, Catherine Fitzmaurice, who created this work, was and still is very interested in healing. And there is a healing aspect to this work. This particular pose is super powerful to use with trauma survivors. There's often tears in this work or laughter, right? So there can be an autonomic response. Somebody may start laughing hysterically. They don't know why, but that's just an autonomic nervous system response. That's completely great. Then after that, I'm going to move them on to their belly. And if they've done yoga, once again, you don't need to do this, but if they have done yoga, I might have them come up into a cobra, and I'll say, this is not that, although it looks similar. This is mermaid. So half of the poses are tremors, and others are arches. And in this particular pose, what I'm going to do is, or what we do, is you have them relax the butt and the feet. And I've actually added an addition to this of a very nice way to relax your butt is actually you take your feet. Can you see my feet? You're going to turn your toes in and let your heels fall outward. And that actually opens up the lower back. That's a yoga therapist addition, but Catherine Fitzmaurice loves it. So I would go ahead and use that. And then in this particular pose, the arms are in towards the side of the body. you're going to press into the hands. Now, normally when you do cobra, you tighten your butt, and that's what helps you come up, using the whole body. But what we're going to do is the butt cheeks are spread wide because the toes are in, the heels are a little bit out. So everything's relaxed there. So you're just going to press into the hands. And as you press into the hands, you're going to leave your head down. Hands or shoulder distance. You leave your head down. And in this particular, they have them come up as high as they can. In this particular pose, the breath gets quite active in the belly. Now there's a couple modifications that I've made, which Catherine Fitzmaurice also likes, because I like any body type to be able to do this work. So they can also bring their hands more forward. The more forward is a little easier, because you will have some people who this is just too difficult for their back, or they have a neck injury. So if there's a neck injury involved, you bring the hands more forward and you have them come up. You can come up a little higher. Their arms may tremor. Basically, we're looking for the breath to stimulate. I'm going to come back into the original pose. The breath to get stimulated in the belly. And I usually go to sound pretty fast on that one. It just feels good to add sound.
Good.
And that's about as long as I do that. I have them come up and down. I mean, they can keep doing that, but most people can't stay very long. So they'll do like about what I did, and then they'll come down. You let them rest for a minute. They go back up. This is fun because they really feel the breath under the belly, because you're right on your belly.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a very nice one. Everybody likes that one. The anecdote.
Is there any arch in the back, or is at this point, or you're trying not to arch the back, or how much of an arch in the back is optimal?
There is a slight arch. Where you always want to arch, if you arch, is you always arch your back rib cage up. The thoracic spine is designed to arch. The lumbar spine is not designed to arch. So these because we twist and move our rib cage so much, thoracic spine is designed to arch, lumbar not. So you don't want them arching here. And they're not coming very high. They're just going to come about here. If I come out, like even if I have an older person, I would just have them come all the way out to here. Their arms are going to tremor a little bit. Sorry, the head should be down. But the original pose, this is the original pose. And those are yoga therapy modifications, which I've been making to Catherine Fitzmaurice's work, which she likes, so that's good. The anecdote is child's pose, which is you have them spread their knees. More the knees are spread, the easier it is for people. And just have them come back.
And I can see from the sheet, Heather, that after any of these poses, it's always good to recover for a minute or two.
Absolutely.
In the child's pose? Okay.
Any kind of arch you want to anecdote in child's pose. You don't need to do child's pose for the tremor work on the back. That would just be a supine posture. But for here, you have to do child's pose. It's nicest with the arms forward, child's pose. You let them relax, and then you're going to have them come down. And then the next one is you're going to have them grab their feet. And in this particular pose, you use the whole body and you use a lot of strength to come up and bow. But we're not going to do that. What we're going to do is we're just going to use the legs. So we are going to come up, but we want to keep, once again, the belly released and the butt released. So we're taking away in these poses some of the stabilizers, which make them more,
So instead of being athletic, it's doing something different?
Yes, instead of being athletic, the purpose is for the breath. And if you're athletic, you're going to hold your breath and pull your belly in.
Okay.
So we want the belly and butt free, because if you pull those in, everybody actually right now, pull those in. Are you going to be able to breathe deeply? No, you're going to have an upper chest rib cage breath. Okay. So we want that low. Some people will be able to grab here. Others won't. If they won't be able to, you use straps.
Okay.
Yoga straps. Okay. You can even use a towel, where you wrap a towel around their feet, the front of their feet, and they hold onto the towel. So for this one, I'm not going to come too high because I'm trying to release my butt. I usually go to sound right away. Sound may be not so fluffy, although it's supposed to be fluffy. We actually sing in this work, and we do text work in this work. So at this point, I may let them have a little more voice, as long as it's just coming on the breath. It has to be completely breath and voice as one. They do 3 or 4 and come and rest. Couple, rest. Because you don't want them to be sore, right?
Okay.
And then you're going to come into child's pose again. Have them relax. Then you're going to come on your hands and knees. And this is a super cool one. I love this one. And we do a little, you can do a little cat-cow with them. But we're going to do, this is called cat, where you arch up. We're going to do a cat just between the shoulder blades. So they're just going to arch up between the shoulder blades. And I don't know why I don't do this all the time. And then they're going to sink and pull their shoulder blades together. Oh my God, this is the best feeling thing ever. Once you show this to your students, they're going to want to do this. If they do nothing else, they're going to want to do this all the time. Coming between the shoulder blades. Because it gets into all the nasty bits that we all hold. And coming down. And then, so you have them do a few of those. And then, what you're going to do, which is really odd, you let them just be sway back, sink their belly down, let the back hang. And then this is an odd thing to do. This is a tremor exercise for most people, so watch closely. I'm going to bring my elbows back. I've just taken away the support. My head's going to be down. Uh-huh. 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 Come back in the child's pose.
Heather, was the tremor in your arms or in your back?
Started in my arms, went into my upper back, and then my head just wanted to flop all over the place. Like some sort of crazy fit or something. I didn't let my head go wild because I didn't want to freak you guys all out, but I really could have just completely gone into like some spastic movements. Sometimes it'll get really spastic. So it's not always a little gentle tremor. Sometimes in this, like if I do this one, because I have a lot of tension here, especially today. So we can go pretty crazy in any of the postures. That can happen. The next one I don't do a lot with people, which is the camel, because this can be really hard, but it's an arch where they put their hand here and their hand here. I don't do that one that much, although today I'm liking it. You can't see my head is not dropped back. I don't have people drop their heads back, I have their heads forward. I'm a flexible person. You want, if they're in this pose and they're flexible, you want them to really open up their pelvis area. From that, I'm going to come over and I'm going to go into a downward dog that I can bend and stretch in. Can you guys see my legs?
No, I'm just seeing the top part, but I don't know about the other camera.
Turn around. No socks, by the way, in this work. I have socks on. That's not true. They can have socks on the floor stuff. When they get to downward dog, they probably don't want to have their socks on. But I'm going to do downward dog, and I'm going to bend and flex in downward dog, creating a little tremor. I'm going to walk my hand. Oh, sorry, let me go back into the tremor. I'm going to get this tremor going. I once again flexing, bending, flexing. I'm going to keep that going. I'm going to see if I can walk my hands back, bring my heels down, keep bending and flexing. This is called drop down tremor. Once you can do this, this is used a lot in colleges. Coming from downward dog, my feet are straight. If I were to do this, I'd bring my feet a little in towards each other, my toes slightly in, because that even makes you tremor more. This is called a downward down drop tremor. See if I can roll up. And as I roll up, I'm going to put my fingers together. Let me move this camera back now. Thumbs together. I'm going to come up. I can do a standing tremor. Standing tremor, have my feet slightly pigeoned in. Oh, here I might start some text. Oh, or some full-on sound. Oh, and then we have standing tremor where I'm going to link my thumbs. I'm going to come up.
Okay. See, Heather, we can't see this, so can you just describe it?
No, you can see it.
Okay.
I'm going to come up. And I'm marching. My pelvis is as if it's going to fall forward, which creates a tremor. In the whole body. I'm always anecdote and arch by curling over. And there you go. So it's actually lovely to teach as a whole yoga sequence in a class. And that is, there are some more poses, but those are the main fundamental poses.
This is the deconstructing series.
This is the deconstructing series, which just basically what it means is you're deconstructing all the tension in your body.
Okay.
Question, Nora?
And then, so this is supposed to be followed up with the structuring, but that's based in text, is that correct?
Yeah, so structuring is actually, if any of you are singers, it's a poggio for speech. And what structuring is, so you would do this first, and this gets your body free. And then, and Fitzmaurice classes are usually about 2 hours, because you can spend 2 hours destructuring. It actually feels fabulous. And it also, it gets your body ready to work. I feel really good right now after doing that, and I didn't feel so great this morning. So it actually opens up soreness, relieves soreness in the body and stuff. Have people make sure that they don't overdo it. They do a few and stop if they're having any sort of pain. You always have them stop, right? Now structuring is basically, now that our body's free, it's a system of breath management or called support. And support is a word that's thrown around a lot in the world. What support actually means is engagement of the abdominal muscles. And in Fitzmaurice Voicework, we're most interested in the deepest layer of abdominal musculature, which is your transverse abdominal muscles. They're a corset. They attach to the bottom of the pelvis. They come up, they wrap around like a corset and attach into the fascia in the back. They come around and then they come up, and they have fingers that go into the diaphragm. And why the transverse abdominis is so interesting to us for voice work is that your diaphragm, which lines your 6 ribs, has fibers that come this way. The fibers come this way, all the way around the body. It's a dome. Attaches to the bottom of your sternum, lines your 6 ribs, comes around, lines the 6 ribs in the back, and attaches to your thoracic spine. And the diaphragm has fibers that come this way, and as the transverse comes up, with the fibers going this way, they what's called interdigitate, or literally weave through. They make a weave into the diaphragm. So it's the only muscle that directly connects with the diaphragm. And that's excellent because you can't feel your diaphragm. There's no proprioception nerve endings in your diaphragm, so you'll never be able to feel your diaphragm. So don't even try. You can feel the effects of the diaphragm on other muscles of your body, but to actually sit, you can imagine where it is. Oh, I think I feel it, but you're feeling the diaphragm pressing on your ribs and belly and other places. So what we're interested in is using that actual transverse to engage the diaphragm. What the transverse does is when you take a breath, 2 things happen. the abdominal muscles release, and the bottom ribs swing open. And the best way to experience that is to use what the Italians called a surprise breath. So if you take a fast inhalation, like you're surprised, oh, I was so surprised, you'll feel the ribs open and the belly pop out. Now, there's been two sorts of breathing that have been used historically. One has been belly-only breathing. There's been another technique, which is just breathe with your ribs. And people have fought over both of these, ribs or abdominal breathing. The fighting is ridiculous because in actual voice science, we found that the bottom ribs always open when the belly comes out, because what's happening is the diaphragm, as it comes down, it pushes your belly out and opens the bottom ribs simultaneously. So we want to make sure that we get, in Fitzmaurice work, some of the ribs as well. This comes from historically many, oh, there's a cat, many centuries of breath management work. Okay, so the best way to feel it is to have your hand here and your ribs here. And if you take a surprise breath, the rib cage opens, the abs are out, and then we want to engage the transverse by bringing it in a little bit. Whoa, 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 to support. So as it comes in, what support means is making exhalation, which is usually a passive process. Exhalation, usually you inhale, and exhalation is just a collapse. But for voice work, we need to go longer on our breath. So when we will inhale, and then if we engage the transverse, we're making exhalation a active activity instead of a passive one. So now, if I bring my transverse in a little bit, the transverse works two ways. One way is the transverse comes in, it holds the ribs open naturally, which as the ribs are open, it keeps your lungs open. So it delays exhalation, which for singing is very important because singing is really physiologically delaying exhalation. And sometimes we're delaying exhalation when we're doing long prose or Shakespeare or text where we don't want to breathe in an unusual place. So we want to train the body to be able to delay exhalation. So as we engage the transverse, you can hear more resonance in the voice. I'm engaging it right now by just pulling it in a little bit, the abs in a little bit. And there's more accents to it. So sound is more accented. But more than anything, when you use your transverse, you're actually using the only muscle that can directly engage your diaphragm as a power source, freeing up the larynx completely. And your little 1/2 to 5-inch vocal cords. It frees them from any tension. So you always want to be using your transverse when you're speaking. This will naturally happen if you do lots of deep breathing. You'll start to notice when the belly comes out, and wow, my body's free for breath, that hopefully with a thought you will engage the transverse. But at first, a lot of people are so cut off from this part of their body that may not happen. So that was the idea of destructuring, was open up the whole body, get the breath deep enough. Also, other work that you've been doing is about getting the body released so that the transverse naturally engages. The transverse is what we use as a little kid. We would never think of not using our transverse when we make sound. And what else to say about this? Oh, one of my favorite ways for people to find the transverse is barking. And dogs don't bark on open vowels. They don't go, ah, e, e. They usually bark on W's and F's and things. So I like to use the word woof. So I'll have people say, woof, 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 woof. And their transverse kicks in right away. Any other questions?
I think that's it.
Namaste. Enjoy your Fitzmaurice Voicework. Bye.